Hello, my name is James Arroyo, and this is Chapter 1, Part 2, Preparing Your First Public Speech. So, in Part 1, we talked about communication as a whole, and then we applied it to certain situations that you may engage with outside of the classroom, but also more importantly, we then tied it to public speaking and realized that they are in fact very similar. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about how to prepare for your first public speech with some relevant things that will guide you throughout the class. So, these are going to be the big things that are going to guide you throughout this entire course. And if we are able to master these, we will be able to do very well in this course. So the big thing, whenever people realize that, hey, I'm teaching public speaking, they always ask, what's the big secret to public speaking? I tell them simply, there is no big secret. It is simply to practice. It's practice, 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 preparation, 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 and even more practice. Let Allen Iverson take it from here. He's talking about practice too. It is something to consider that the only way that we get better at anything is to practice. Let's take Steph Curry. Do you think that he was shooting three-pointers out of the womb? Not exactly. He practiced a lot, and it's because of that he was successful. So, too, we are going to be more successful with our public speaking when we begin to practice as well. It is understandable that if we are incredibly anxious in regards to public speaking. And a big reason for that is because we have not practiced in front of people. We are uncertain of how this situation is going to go. And as a result of this uncertainty, we feel anxious about it. So, the only way to get better is to practice. And those who practice their public speeches tend to do very, very, very well. Those who do not practice, even when they have inherent skill, do not do as well as they would like. So, the big secret to effective public speaking is to practice. Some advantages of practice is that it can improve your speech content and delivery. Let's start with content. When you are practicing a speech, you start to realize, oh, you know what? Maybe this doesn't actually belong here. Or you know what? Maybe that one source that I found while I was researching, that may actually be better in this spot. So we start to learn, okay, this content's better than that content, but also, obviously, delivery. The more we practice, the better at delivery we will get because we will feel less anxious, and we will overall learn what to do with our hands, what to do with our voice, and what to do with our facial expressions. Also, preparation may increase your credibility. A big part of credibility is not just knowing things about the topic, that's a part of it, but it's also about how you communicate those things. So if we are saying things like I'm not so sure, but that will diminish our credibility or could diminish our credibility. Preparation also may decrease your anxiety because, again, if we have done this public speaking situation 100 times, 1,000 times before, we will feel less uncertain about this situation, and as a result, we will feel more confident. So here are the 10 top most important steps for beginning public speakers. These are the things that are going to help guide us throughout this entire course. And again, if we take these to heart and practice these starting today, we will do very well in this course. So it's to care, organize your thoughts, start strong and strong, look great, feel great, show your personality, never drop the ball, control your body, control your voice, make eye contact, and rehearse the speech. So let's begin. We start about caring. An audience must invest time to listen to your speech, so you should care about them and care about what you're saying so that you show so that you show them that you care. What shows that you may not care is if you aren't prepared, if you aren't providing the most up-to-date information or the best information. So it is so we want to show that we care for the audience by providing them the best information. But it's not just caring about them, it's also about caring about ourselves. Has anyone ever done a speech or a project where they did not care at all about the topic that they were presenting or writing about? Did it go well? I've done many a speech, many a written assignment where I didn't care about it. And it made it a lot harder for me to accomplish this task. So we want to be sure that we are choosing speech topics that we are interested in and care about so that we can communicate that energy and passion in an authentic way instead of having to force interest about something that we don't really care that much about. In this class, you will get to choose your speech topics. So you will be able to choose things that you're passionate about so that it is not such a chore to research. And it will also be more authentic when we are presenting that you care. So care about your audience. We also want to organize our thoughts. Organizing is the process of planning out information and ideas in your speech to ensure clear, logical structure. Let's take the metaphor of your room. Who has an incredibly messy room? Yep, me too. Are you able to find things easily in your room? Me too, because I have my own organizational structure and it makes sense to me. However, if I were to ask someone else to look for something in my room, they obviously wouldn't be able to find it because, first of all, that's super creepy and I would never ask them to do that, but also that they do not know my organizational structure or my unique organizational structure. In other words, it's not organized. So, the reason why we organize our speeches is because we want the audience to understand our information, and an organized speech, we will be more able to better remember and recall that information, not just as the speaker. When we have an organized speech, we will be able to remember and recall things easier so that we do not have to memorize the speech word for word. But it also helps the audience that they do not, that when you have finished speaking, that they will be able to recall more of your speech than if it was not organized. So there are three parts: introduction, body, conclusion. Makes sense. But there are also main points and then transitions between main points of the body. I like to think of this as cubbies, binders, and papers. Your main points may be these cupboards or cubbies. Let's say that one cubby is labeled taxes, one cubby is labeled photo albums, and the other cubby is labeled self-help guides. Then within, let's say, taxes, each binder is labeled 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and then, oh my goodness, good 2020. Sorry, I'm Getting flashbacks about 2020, even though it's still happening. Anyway, but we within those binders are then all of the things, all the information that we are presenting in those years. So, was there any information labeled on the cubby? No, that is just a label for the information in the binders. The binders are labels for the information within the binders, the paper, and that is how our organization is going to happen. Main points and subpoints may only just be, usually will be just one sentence because it is just one idea. Whereas on those papers, there may be a better development of these ideas. That's all we're going to go into this today, but there will be more going into it later. We also want to start strong and end strong. Why is a first impression important in everyday conversation? A big reason for it is because we will make impressions of that person based on that first impression, and we will match all the behavior beyond that first impression. We will compare it to that first impression. So if we have a very positive first impression, we will be more likely to be engaged. Whereas if we do have a very poor first impression, have you had a very poor first impression of someone that maybe you work with, or maybe someone who wanted to be your friend, or maybe was your friend or is your friend? Did we engage with them? Probably not if we had a negative first impression. We tend to shut off due to that first impression being negative. So we want to be sure that we have a positive first impression. And in the same way, we also want to leave a lasting ending impression because we want them to remember us in a positive way. So we want to start strong and we want to end strong. When does contact with our audience start? It doesn't start when we start speaking. It starts when we are walking up to the podium, and then we start talking. So show up with a commanding presence and confidence. Know that the first things you say will be noticed, and that audiences may sum up impressions of you at the start. But in the ending, do not end with things like, that's it, I'm done. Thank you's okay, but I personally don't like it. Because why am I thanking you? I just developed all this information, so you should be really the one who's thanking me. But that's my own opinion. Things like, am I done yet? How much time do I have left? Yeah, that's all I have. Do not end in these ways. Also, look great, feel great. The way you dress affects the way that the audience sees you. So when wearing certain clothes, you communicate something to the audience. If you are wearing a very nice suit, that may communicate formality, that may communicate importance. Whereas if you are wearing absolutely nothing at all, that may communicate something else. So please be sure that you are wearing clothes for these classes. But it also makes us feel a certain way. The way that we dress will make us feel different, and we may be able to communicate more confidently if we are dressed in a confident way. So also avoid wearing items that may be distracting or take away from the speech. Things like jingling bracelets, shirts with text on them, or pictures on them. That can be very distracting things. Overly bright colors. We really don't want to distract from our speech, and wearing certain clothes can do that. For your presentations for this class, you want to be sure that you are dressing for a job interview in an office where you will be representing a company. So, highly formal attire, because not only will it communicate formality and importance, it will also make you feel more confident so that you will be able to present more effectively. But it is not exclusively what you're wearing. If you have not bathed, that may affect things. It may communicate something. Also, be sure that you're showing your personality. Remember that this is a conversation with an audience, and to show your personality means to engage the audience. Public speaking emulates the best qualities of everyday communication, so we want to show our personality in these communication situations. So avoid stressing out. Easier said than done. Relax and share yourself, and share a sense of humor if it's appropriate and effective. Please do not be telling jokes if you are presenting a eulogy or some negative event in history. And lastly, smile. Interesting to note that smiling can soften up your voice and can actually fire mirror neurons in your audience that will make them feel happier. In communication, this is also called emotional contagion. When I'm happy, then you may be happy as well. Never drop the ball. Dropping the ball means happens when you make a mistake, but then speak verbally or non-verbally, calling attention to it. So do not call attention to your mistakes. Things like, "Oh wait, I messed up," or "Oh, can I start over?" Or non-verbally, um, or all of those things let the audience know that you've made a mistake and can hurt your credibility. So instead, if you've made a mistake, stay focused on the message and keep going. Don't ask to start over, just pass through it. Because if you go through it, the audience may not be able to tell. They may just think that it was a pause. One time when I was doing a public speech for a large audience, upwards of 600 or 700 people, I forgot. I blanked. I forgot completely what I was going to say. So I took a pause. It was about maybe 10 seconds. I felt like more, but I just paused. Then I kept on going. Not a single person noticed. So it is something that we should never drop the ball, because we do not want to admit our mistakes and therefore show the audience. Control your body. Excessive, unintentional gestures that are repetitive movements can be distracting to the audience. Again, it really does not help your presentation to be over excessive, but on the same way, we also don't want to be so small and just using repetitive motions like this either. When you fidget, move around, lean, tap, use too many hand gestures, you may decrease your credibility. So practice with speaker stance. This is feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, hands to your sides, shoulders slightly back, and chin up. Do not pace, and always move with confidence. Always be purposeful. Also, use your hands effectively. Do not put them in pockets, do not play with your hair, and do not fig leaf, clasping your hands in front of you. Also use purposeful movement for effect. Use hand motions when they are needed to stress a point, and move on the platform with a plan. That means that if you're moving around the stage, there should be some sort of purpose to it. We also want to control our voice. The name of the game for this one is variation in voice. We want to vary the rate at which we're speaking. Sometimes we'll speak very fast, other times we may speak slower. We may speak loud at some points. We may speak very quiet, depending on what we're talking about. We may pause to emphasize a particular point. Pauses give a speaker power. It says it makes the audience wait for you, which is an incredibly confident move. Also, it builds tension. And the next thing you say relieves that tension. When speakers feel this tension, we tend to reduce it by using words like verbal fillers. So we want to be sure that we are using pauses instead of verbal fillers. Inflection is stressing particular words to have an impact and stress the meaning of your language. So it is about emphasis. Those are other ways. We want to vary the times we use this as well. Making eye contact. Direct eye contact can be different depending on the cultures from which we come from. In our culture, you may make eye contact with me, and that would be understandable. It would be showing that you are listening to me. Whereas in Asian cultures, it can be seen as a sign of disrespect since there is so much power difference between us. But in the US, we see this as a form of confidence and show respect and connection. Eye contact is the best way that we show a connection and we build a connection. Not just because when we make eye contact, it shows that we have this connection, but also we are then looking at the audience and we are able to respond to their feedback instead of looking down at cards. So make eye contact with one person in the audience, and then at the next thought, look to someone else in the audience, then to someone else in the audience, then to someone else in the audience. You do not want to just look at one person throughout your entire speech. Hi, my name is James Arroyo, and today I'd like to talk to you about chocolate. It may get a little bit awkward. Whereas you also don't want to just sprinkler it and just sort of look all around the audience without actually looking at anyone in particular. Looking to each person individually creates a small connection, but not so big of a connection that the person starts to feel awkward. And lastly, rehearse your speech. You need to practice to make sure that you're ready to present your speech. You should try to simulate the environment as much as possible because practice makes perfect. Public speaking, a big reason why it is challenging is because we have to reduce public speaking anxiety. We have to reduce the anxiety of speaking in front of a lot of people. So if we practice only in front of ourselves, then it may not be as effective of practice as we could have. We also want to practice in the room in which you are to deliver. This helps not only with this helps not only with understanding the presentation technology of the room. This, of course, is not talking for this situation, but it also then simulates the environment better so that you're better able to present in that area. You can practice in any sort of speech and science success center. There are resources on campus that we may be able to utilize to practice these things, and practice until you feel completely comfortable with the material. There is no reason to stop practicing until we feel completely comfortable. So these are the 10 big, most important steps for beginning public speakers. I hope that this was all informative. And next time we meet, I hope that we all have questions as to any of these that may be challenging. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time.